Hello and welcome to vlog number 53, the first one of the second year of Beard Clipper, BC, if you will. I am just working through the clips and I can tell you that this is going to be a very varied and probably quite long video, so apologies in advance, but grab yourself a brew, go on, put the kettle on, and then you can enjoy it while you're drinking that and maybe doing some hobbying, which would be cool. It's been a good week. It's been a crazy week for me at work and also personally. Angela and Rosie are back, which is brilliant, and that's been wonderful. I've had a great time, but I have also managed to get to the hobby bench quite a lot and work on a fair few projects, which is always good. So I will stop rambling now. I will thank you very much for watching, or I'll remind you to subscribe if you've not yet. Thank you if you already have. I really appreciate it. And also don't forget to comment. I love to hear from you and I reply to every comment I receive. So why don't you give that a try? Anyway, thank you for watching and I will see you again at the end. This is all ready now for the pour, so I'm going to get my new mixers, mix up a load of resin, and I will film the pour, which will be happening very shortly. Been about an hour or so since I poured that resin, and I think I'm going to do another pour. You can see, if I just step over, along here there is quite a pronounced meniscus, and I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be quite obvious. So what I think I might do is pour about the same quantity again if I can, and start over this end and attempt to at least get up to the edge completely with at least 1 millimetre or 2 of coverage. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do another mix, and I will put some music on in a second when I've done that and bring you along for that pour. But yeah, this is really going to take a lot of resin. That last pour was 800 ml total, so this will be another 800 ml if I get it done. So that'll be 1.6 litres that I've done today, and it's barely tickled it. So yes, this is going to be a big old build. Let me open this clip by saying that I am officially an idiot, not for one reason, but for 2 reasons this time. First of all, I already filmed this, but when I got to the end of it, I realised that I'd muted the microphone. Now, normally, I would just go and do a voiceover. However, now we come to the reason why I'm an idiot the second time. Can you see what is wrong with that? I have the ribs in the wrong place. I didn't even realise, I didn't notice. Obviously I was rushing too much for some reason maybe. But it looks like I've made a boo-boo here. I think this rib here should go here, and this rib here should go there. So what this means is I'm attempting to put the deck panel on, and it won't fit because this rib here is too short, and obviously that one being too long isn't so much of an issue, but yeah, you can see that it kind of butts up against it here. So I deleted the previous clip, which I don't do very often because it was just pointless having it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm not going to throw it away, which is what I wanted to do first off. I was like, ah! So I have my little razor saw that I can use. And let me show you how I'm going to dig this out of a total disaster. I hope I may make it worse, but anyway, fingers crossed. So I'm going to cut off the rib which is in the wrong place and too wide. Okay, so this rib here, we're going to cut this off like that. Okay, and then what we're also going to do is we're going to cut off this rib which is in the wrong place. And this is going to be slightly harder. but we can do it at this angle. The reason it's quite hard is because it's going to try to bend and then it will break, because MDF is a little bit brittle at times. And then this, I got a new Citadel Handle because I loved the old one so much, the other one so much, and I wanted one upstairs and one downstairs. And unfortunately, the one that's arrived is rubbish. It really loosens a lot. Anyway, so we're going to cut that off like that. And that means, while it's not going to be absolutely perfect, it shouldn't matter. It means that I can actually now slot that in place, pretty much right in place like that. And that's going to work perfectly. There we are. So that is how I am going to save my mistake. It looks like I might actually have put this one in the wrong place as well. I really have not paid enough attention when I've been putting the ribs in. If you have a look now, you can see that that one is slightly over as well. So I'm going to glue this in place, just a little bit of PVA glue, slot that in, and hopefully that will be good enough. If I can spot the other place where that one should have gone, it really is starting to look a lot like I'm not going to be able to save this very easily. So I'll get that done off camera, get that glued in place, and then I'll bring you back for the next step. Or I might just straight away burn it and buy a new one and start over and pay more attention to where the ribs go. But if you are building this, it says, note the middle rib is different. It's not just the middle rib which is different. They're all different. What you really should do is, when you're assembling the heel, make sure to have the base panel to offer it against. Otherwise, you might do what I've done and you'll end up with them in the wrong place, because yeah, they're not all the same. Anyway, onwards and forever upwards. Operation Save the Boat continues. So that's gone on okay. I'll probably end up ordering another one of these and doing it right. But that's going to be fine. You're not even going to notice it. So the next step I'm going to do is putting the sides of the boat on. So that's these bits here, which you can see now. So we'll just need to very carefully and quickly separate these from the rest of the cardboard sprue. And what it says to do is to do one, make sure it's in place first, and then do the other. So shape the hull panels, glue the hull panels in place, use the locating lug here on the centre rib to first fix the panels. Place the hull frame on a flat surface and glue the panel for the ribs. Glue one end at a time to ensure the card glues to the ribs and is flush with the base underside. So let's see how well we can do this. So first of all, we can see the lug there. So what it says to do is to basically glue that on, then run it round and do it like that. Now I'm actually going to use super glue for this because PVA is going to dry too slowly. So let me grab the super glue. So I've managed to glue the lid of the super glue shut, which happens quite often, which is quite annoying. So I've just had to take the lid off and I'll apply it like that. So what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of super glue, or as much as we can, a little bit of super glue, using it like this. Actually, I'll put some on there and then I'll get a toothpick. And what we'll do is we'll apply that to the rib, centre rib, get it in place, and then apply it at the end. And then that will allow us to then maybe come along later with some PVA and secure it at the bottom. So I'm going to get a toothpick and I'm going to apply the super glue that we just dropped into that plate there, and we're going to put it up around the central locating lug, like so. And actually, you know what, we're going to run it all the way along as well, even though we probably shouldn't. Might regret this. Oh well, you need shipwrecks as well as good boats, don't you? There we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to push that on and press it round. Now you notice I have only done one end like that. I am following their advice to get one end done first. And with the super glue, that glues a lot quicker. So what we can then do is come along and apply the super glue to the rest of the frame. It dries so quickly I could probably, when I do the other side, actually apply the super glue across the whole of the base. But we shall see. There we are. So we've got some super glue there, all nicely in place. And what we'll do is we'll press that in as well. And that is then nice and flat, though it hasn't stuck at that end. Excellent. So I will now do the other side, and then I'll bring you back when I come to the next step, which is going to be doing the deck housing. So I have another challenge, which I'm really looking forward to actually, this one. One of the guys from the Encounter Terrain 10x10 last month, a guy called Sigurd, who is on Instagram and is awesome, and I will try to remember to link to his Instagram or what have you in this video. He has challenged me and I've accepted because, well, you know, or actually I think he called out for people to accept a challenge, and I went, me, because why wouldn't you? It's not that I'm not busy. And we came up with the subject. We've got a month, so the month of November, and the subject is fortress, so make a fortress. And that's it. So it's on a 25 centimetre square base. That's the maximum dimensions that it can be. It cannot exceed and overlap over a 25 centimetre base. And it's playable, so it's not a diorama, it's a gaming piece. And so I've spent a little bit of time. It's now the 2nd of November, I think it is. So I'm 2 days into the build and I've not built a thing, but that's fine. I've spent a couple of days thinking about and researching on the internet what I'd like to create. So what you can see in front of you here were my first kind of initial sketches. Over here I've got the idea of maybe building a tall cliff and then having a fortress on top. That was the first idea I came up with. With that thought, I then did some research into real life fortresses. Oh, let me actually put this into perspective. I'm building this for Blood and Plunder, so this is going to be a gaming terrain piece that I'll be able to use probably in my first games of Blood and Plunder. So alongside this, I'm going to be looking at painting up at least 2 of the packs of miniatures that I got, so that me and Angela can play on this when this terrain piece is made. So having said that, I went and I had a look at some real life fortresses in the Caribbean, and this is on St Martin. The name for it has gone from me. I'll try and remember to pop it on the screen, but you can see here that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd need 6 25 centimetre by 25 centimetre squares to do that, so I threw that away. I decided I didn't want to do partial. I may very well make that one. It's an awesome looking terrain piece and it'll be a wonderful set piece, but yeah, I've got a lot of large terrain. I don't really need another large item of terrain. So what I've settled on, if I zoom in, try and get that in shot, is this side here. So this side here is a very simple idea, which is cool, but also a really awesome idea, I think. So initially I thought about having a little bit of sea, a little bit of sand, having the tree line, and then a palisade fort on the tree line. I've developed it a little bit since this sketch. I'm not going to do the sea, I'm just going to do from the sand rising up to the tree line and then the palisade. And the idea for this will be it will be able to sit on top of those tiles I made for the lakes in the Battle Games in Middle-earth video, which I will attempt to remember to link just now in this video, and it will be able to be really modular and be able to sit in place. And I might even be able to do some more tiles along the same sort of thing. It'll be nice and flat this as well, it's not going to take up a lot of space, which will extend maybe it into an island or into a longer kind of like shoreline. But for now, this is what I'm going to do. So we're going to have a flat base rising up very steadily and not very much, just to a tree line, which will have like brush. You'll have the tide line on it as well, and then in the trees, which will be a little bit of a clearing here and maybe a track leading off, there'll be a couple of guns sitting on some firing platforms and a wooden palisade and maybe some scatter terrain I'll make as well, which will be tents which can sit in the area behind. So that's what I'm going to make. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get together my materials and I'm going to get started. So I hope that you enjoy this, and yeah, I hope that I get it done in time, and I hope that it matches what's in my head. The material I'm going to use and build up from is going to be this 1 centimetre thick blue foam, which I think is going to work perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out a 25 centimetre by 25 centimetre square, and when I've got that, then I can cut down from that, and I know that I'm not going to be outside of my limits. So I've got my 90-degree angle here. There's 25 centimetres, so we can draw that there. And that's going to be one edge coming out there. And then what we can do is we can measure along the bottom 25 centimetres, which I will do on this one. Actually, I'll get a different ruler. Actually, no, I'll do it on this one. This will be just fine. Not perfect, but okay. So that comes along to there. There's the 25 centimetre mark there. So then we can come along and we can measure up with the 25 centimetres from here. And finally, this we should find is exactly 25 centimetres, and it is. However, I will use this ruler because that one is not flush with the surface, and so parallax will screw me up. There we are. So we have a 25 centimetre square base. You can see it is not very big, which is why I decided to cut the C out. So my idea will be is that we will have one edge, we'll have a wavy edge, which will be where the C line will be, and it will rise up to about 2/3 of the way. So about a third of it will be beach, maybe just under, maybe a quarter to a third will be beach. And then we'll have some trees up here, and then the actual palisade, a small palisade here with a couple of guns. So it's going to be quite small, but it's going to look great. So I'm going to get my knife and cut that out now. So let me do that while you're watching as well. Why not? I've got my safety ruler. Always use your safety rulers. You can buy new rulers, but you can't really easily buy new fingers. So look after them. And as always, don't try and cut it all in one go. Just draw the blade through gently a couple of times and it will cut nice and cleanly. And that should just lift out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to sketch on roughly where I want to have my different elements, and then I'll bring you back to show you what it looks like. I have drawn on this, not that you can see really well on the camera, but I have drawn on this, and what I'm now going to do is start carving. So I'm going to put some music on shortly, but I'll show you the first cut and the first few bits before I do that. So basically this is where I'm going to start coming in for the water. So let's just start carving that out. There we are. And then, like I said in the intro, I'm going to come to about a quarter of the way up. Now, the edge of that is roughly to about here. That's where it starts. So what I'm going to do now, I'll put some music on because this will not sound very nice and also will take some time, is I'm now going to very carefully shave down all the way across and get the sand bank done. So what will be the sand area. So I'll get that done, I'll put some music on and you can watch along. Well, there you are, that didn't take as long as I expected it to. So what we're going to do now is going to roughly plot out where everything else is going to go. So I'm going to have the palisade coming around here. This is going to be where the palisade is going to be. And it's only going to be like a shooting platform type thing, which is going to be able to have a couple of guns pointing out to sea. We will have some trees in this area here. Maybe a tree here as well, just kind of like blocking some of the line of sight, and then this is going to be where the path is going to be. So it's quite a basic design. I do have some other blue foam here as well, should I decide that I want to raise the level a little bit more, but right now I'm not going to decide to do that. I'll probably make do with this. So the first stage that I've got to do now is I'm going to paint this with my terrain paint. Now, the reason for that is just to basically finish it off, not to finish it off, to make it a bit stronger than it is now. I think that I'm going to use a slightly different type of terrain paint to what I normally do. I'm going to be using some grout and some PVA, mix that up, and I'm going to make it a sand colour, and I'm going to cover the whole of this with the sand. So then I'll be able to put dry brushes of brown on and maybe some the trees, the deadfall from the trees, but it's going to be a very, very sandy looking base. So I'm going to get that mixed up. I'm going to consider whether I'm going to build up any more 3D as well, and I'll bring you back, and that's where I want to get to this evening. I want to have the sand on, so I'm going to think about the next layers as well, and I'll bring you back very shortly. So decision made, I'm not going to build up any more terrain yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with my sand to make it all solid and make it much less likely to break. And then if I do decide I want to build more terrain up, I can always do that and then cover with more sand later on if I wish. So I'm just going to do an initial state. So what I've got here is some grout, which I have pre-sifted. Top tip, if you're using grout, shove it through a very, very fine sieve, otherwise you really will struggle with lumps. I have my sifted back sand from my back bank, which is also what I use in this mix to make a really nice sand colour. I've got some PVA glue and I've got some water. So I won't do all of this on camera because it takes some time, but what I've found is that it's quite, it doesn't like water very much, the grout, and so it takes some mixing to get it into a good state. So you can see I've put a little bit of the grout and a little bit of the sand in, of the dirt. I put quite a lot of PVA in. It gives it a little bit more flexibility than it would have normally with just water, and then just a very, very small amount of water. You need much less water than you think. So just a drip of water like that. And then what we do is we start mixing, and it takes a little bit of time before it starts to get together. You can see that actually the grout settles on top of the water and it doesn't really want to go in. But with the sand and with the PVA, it mixes easier than it does without those two elements. So I'll get that done. And there we are, we've mixed it. So the point to make here is that you'll probably be mixing that and you'll think, oh, this is never going to combine, and you'll be tempted to add more water. Don't. It mixes absolutely fine with just that little splash of water, and this is thick enough now that you can paint it on, but not so thick that it won't spread. So what I'm going to do is paint this over the entirety of the base. There we are. So I'll leave that to dry now, and then I might do another coating, so mix another batch up and put a second coat on, or I might not. I'll see what it looks like when it's dried. But that's as simple as that, and that is a really nice sand colour, which will look really good, especially when it's got a little bit of green for contrast. I was considering putting down a coating underneath of black, maybe, just to give it some depth, but I think that 2 coats of this will more than cover the blue, and it will be really, really strong, and it will be it will look much better than maybe with the black. It might be a bit too dark. So I'm going to let that go off overnight and maybe do another coat in the morning, and I'll bring you back for the next step once I've done that. That's dried overnight and is looking really good. However, I've had some thoughts that I do want to put a little bit more terrain and rise, not very much, just a bit of variation. So what I've got is I've just got some of this very thin 3mm XPS, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up the rough areas where I said there's going to be a track coming here, and then this is where the actual palisade is going to be. So I'm going to build up with that, just very basically a little rise, just a couple of millimeters, just to make it a little bit more interesting and have the track in a little bit of a sunken area between. So I'll get that done. I'm just going to glue it down using PVA or gator glue or something like that. Probably gator glue because it'll be quicker. And then what I'll do is I will apply a few more coats of this grout and sand mix just until it's covered. Now you can see obviously it's going to be a different colour. I am even thinking that I might just go over the whole lot with my terrain brown paint to cover up all the blue, make sure it's not there at all, or maybe even my black, and then come in and start to apply the sand again. So a little bit of a rejig, but I think it's going to end up being better. So I'll get that cut and glued, and I'll bring you along for each of the stages when I get to them. I have glued those black bits in place, and I've hacked away at them a little bit to make them a little bit more interesting and not just flat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to apply a couple of coats of the sand. I'm not going to paint it, and I'll bring you back when that's all done and I'm ready for the next step. Back to this, and I've saved it, I think. I mean, it's obviously got some issues around its fit of the edge of the boat. However, I think it's going to look absolutely fine, so I'm not too worried. So we're on to nearly the final step of the assembly. I've already popped them out from the sprue because it takes quite a bit of time and it's a bit boring, and I didn't want to just have lots and lots of footage of me popping things off the sprue. And what we're going to do now is we're going to glue the command deck to the tower sides. So this here is the command deck, and these are the tower sides. So a little bit of PVA on my plate, put that on the sides where it's going to engage. There we are. And then that side goes there, like so. And that side, a little bit more PVA on that side. Just a touch more there. A little more PVA there, and then that side goes like that. So we have our command deck glued to the tower sides. It then says glue the assembly to the deck, which is also a nice simple thing to do. So what we'll do is we will pop some glue on the bottom here, and then slot that into the little slots that are in the deck, waiting to accept it. So that's that side in. Just make sure this side gets engaged as well. Quite. There we are. We are in. Great stuff. Yep. That's in. Good. Okay. So then you glue the step risers in place and glue the card steps in place. So what we have here is a little panel that's going to go in the front here, and so this goes like that. So we'll glue those two in place, and then we have a little bit of cardboard over here, which is the steps just there. So I will pop them out as well, but first of all I will glue these two in. If I hadn't screwed up on the ribs, this would have been a really good build, and it's really easy. So now you've seen me make that mistake on the ribs, you can go and buy this kit and you'll find that it's a really easy kit, and only an idiot would make a mistake on it. So there we are. Public service for you. So let's pop these steps out and then get them glued in. So it looks like all the steps are identical, so I don't need to worry about making a fool of myself, I don't think. I can just slot them in like that. It says glue the assembly into position under the tower deck. Push it back evenly as far as possible. So that's what it says to do once this is assembled. So let's get these in. And then, once this is all dried overnight, it'll be ready to start painting, which is going to be the fun bit. So, I say going to be the fun bit, it's actually all been good fun build apart from the mistake I made. But even that I managed to save without it being too horrendous. So yeah, I really am enjoying this. Tell you what I'm most looking forward to is seeing it on my lake build. So push it back as far as you can, it says. So that's a little bit fiddly because of various things, like being a klutz, as you've just seen. But we're going to push it back like that. And that now is going to need to be let to dry. So the only final thing left to do now here is to glue this in place, the actual mast in place, and that should slot in there. However, I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to wait for this to dry, so I'll do that a bit later on this evening maybe. But that was a nice easy assembly, and it looks really nice, and it is really coming together, this. So all we've got left to do is to put the mast in place and then the spar in place as well if I wish, and then when that's done, decide whether I'm going to put any rigging on or any kind of sail, and then paint it. Now I might end up painting the mast separately to the boat, just so that I can get in a little bit easier on the decking. But yeah, we're getting close to that painting, so I'm going to let that all dry now, and I'll bring you along for the next step when I get to it. At some point very shortly, Bakir will be drilling through this hole behind me, and that is going to be where the tunnel through from outside room 13 into the games room will be. I will be putting the camera on and just doing a speeded up so that I can have the footage, and I'm very excited obviously that we're finally getting here, the first proper progress towards the model railway. It's time to start work now. I'm on making the actual palisade, and there will be more coats of the sand mixture to go on, and I'll be sorting out this little sharp edge here that I didn't spot when I do the palisade, because I am going to need to build up more terrain around the base of the wood when I've done it, so I'll probably do that with some very small amount of air drain clay. But anyway, that's looking okay. It's a little bit warped. I'm going to fix that probably by applying the sand to the bottom to pull it the other way. So I might do that while I'm making the actual palisade, so that might get done as well next. So I'm going to use balsa wood initially for the uprights, I think. I might change my mind, but this bit won't matter what material I'm making, because I'm just going to talk a little bit about dimensions and also about where I'm going to locate the palisade. So first of all, dimensions. There's going to be a little bit of a shooting platform, so when a model is not on the platform, the height of the wall needs to be higher than them, so they're fully hidden. But when they are on the platform, which is going to be about 1.5 centimetres, about 15 mil, so if I line that up, you'll see there, then about their shoulders need to be poking over, or just below their shoulders. So that gives me an idea of roughly how high I want that wall to be. If we go like that, what you can see is it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4.5 centimetres roughly from where it's on the floor to the top of the spike. So that's roughly the dimensions. Where I'm going to locate the palisade, I'm going to have it coming in roughly along here. It's going to go here, it's going to have an angle, and it's going to go back. And I've decided it is going to be open on each side, because I might extend this, and also just because I think it's going to look a little bit more interesting than if I try to bring it back and then I have all the platforms and everything. So it's going to come on here, have an angle, and go back down there, and then I'll have some trees here, and I'll have, like I say, a tent or two in here, and that's going to be the extent of it. So 2 things to do. One is to sort out the warp, so I'm going to try to do that, as I say, by putting some of the mix on the back and hoping that it drags it out. And the second thing to do is cut a load of the materials, and I'll let you know what I'm using. Obviously, I have some balsa, but I don't actually have all that much. It's not that easy to get over here in Bulgaria, so it's quite an expensive material for me to use, and I like to not use it when I can use things I can find easily. So if I can find stuff more easily, then I will use that, and I'll have a look through my stash. But that's the next steps. I will bring you along for the making step when I've got my materials together, and let's crack on. As you can see, I've been doing some thinking and some playing, and I got out one of the cannons from the frigate for Blood and Plunder, just so I can have a work around and look at some scale things. And I think I'm pretty happy with the shape I've got there, just sketched on in pencil. So what I'm going to be doing is looking at at a template for this. You can see in the background that there is, actually you can't, but I've pushed it out of the way, but I got a load of my balsa wood here, balsa wood platforms, but I think I'm kind of having an eye about using it. I might do, I might not. But what I'm going to be doing now is making a paper template, which means I can either assemble the balsa wood or maybe use coffee stirrers and build it like that, which I've got far better supply of, and save money, because balsa is not cheap, as I've said. It's hard for me to get. So what I've got is a sheet of A4 paper. Let's just move the little cannon out the way. Sheet of A4 paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it, basically. That's my plan. I don't know if it's going to work. I haven't done this sort of thing before. So I'm going to fold it so that you've got, so I've got the rough shape that I'm looking at making. It doesn't really matter to be absolutely accurate, but I do quite like the shape I've got. So let's see whether I can do this. I will stop nattering, put some music on, and you can watch me struggle. There we are. So that's close enough. I decided against folding because it just wasn't going to work. I was going to start to get annoyed, and that's definitely close enough. It's going to be able to allow me to mock up and offer up the wood as I do it, and I don't have to risk damaging my base. So what I'm now going to do is draw on this the actual extent of where I want the firing platform to be, bearing in mind that the palisade is going to be in front of this shape. That's what I've designed it to be like. So this is actually the edge of where the boards are going to be, so we'll be about 4.5 centimeters ish. If we have a look at this miniature here, it's 28mm miniature. It wants to be about 4.5 centimeters, about that big at least, where only the humans are going to be. But then where the firing platform is going to be, it needs to be a bit bigger, because you need to be able to get around behind, and there needs to be space for a recoil and all those things. So I'm currently thinking of it being something like this. So a parallel line there, and then a deep corner and a power line there. However, I'm also thinking that there might be one of the cannon here, which means that it might actually end up being a kind of like this, so a square out. So we've got a cannon here and a cannon here. So we'll see. Anyway, I'll get some sketching done and I'll bring you along for that, and then we'll start to assemble this using whatever materials I decide. I had another delivery this week from Green Stuff World, which I have been putting together in my mind for a while, and finally it got to a point where it was free delivery, so I went for it. So let me get this opened. As you can see, I've not opened this yet. Live on camera. Live as I ever get. So that might change. There's a hint. Anyway. Here we are. Let's see what we've got. Oh, we have a sticker. How cool. A kind of Cthulhu-esque sticker. Green Stuff World. That's pretty nice. And we have a brochure. And a load of peanuts. We have the rollers that go with the... I'm getting more and more of them all the time. So let's see what we've got. We have the Greek, which might be very useful for a project that I'm in the middle of now for Battle Games Middle Earth. We have Egyptian, which is pretty cool. We have Chinese. Oh yeah, looking forward to getting these onto some what's-its. So I also bought the roll maker to make tentacles. How it works, I don't know, but I'll have a play around with that, and I'll be sure to show you. I'll do a proper review of some of these in detail. This is just a brief unboxing thing. I also got the large roll maker, so I've got the two sizes, so I can make big and small tentacles. We have temple. We have the temple roller. We have the elven roller, which I wasn't going to get, but I just chucked it anyway. There was a bit of a, it was a good, that's what I'm looking for really, the dwarven roller. So I can make use of that quite nicely for my Balin's tomb. I also, because I've got the model railway that's going to be coming along, and I don't know, and sometimes it does annoy me a bit having any of the small ones, I went for the mega cobblestone, really long one, which is pretty cool. And what else do we have in here? All right, yeah, so I picked up, oh, it's fallen out, that's a shame. 1, 2, 3, there it is. So I picked up some anti-magnetic tweezers. Again, this is something which I'm hoping will help when I'm doing the model railway. So yeah, you can see that we've got those, so they're going to be good. I've got lots and lots of tweezers, but I don't have any anti-magnetic ones. And last but not least, in this little pot, there's one of the lids. Bit of a shame, that's all. There's the other one, good, found all the lids, okay, good. Now the last but not least, I went for some spider serum, and also I picked up their glow-in-the-dark pigments, which is also going to be useful for the project I'm doing for Paint All the Miniatures right now. So there we are, that's my box of goodies that came from Green Stuff World. There's a good amount of stuff there. Most importantly, and what's going to be used most sooner rather than later, is going to be the dwarven roller. Because we'll just open it, that's going to work really well for some of the things that I need to do for Balin's tomb. So particularly this bottom edge here, if I can roll her out just very thin, just that edge, I can do that and it will work really well for what I need to do, because I can't find any wooden beading. But anyway, that's another video bleeding into this one, and I'll stop rambling now. And yeah, good. I'm going to put that away now and get stuck into the next thing on my list. I've just sat down and sketched a couple of options out on this template, and I'm happy with what I've got now. what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it coming in with the platform here, then wide at the key, and then the platform coming off towards the back as well. So this is a walkway and this is the gun platform. Now if I just grab the little toy, the little scale cannon, you can see that we've definitely got plenty of space there for the cannon to go up, right up to the edge. Remember, this is where the palisade is going to be, so it will be poking out through a hole and potentially be recoiling that far, maybe a little further. You can still get people past. I can fit my 2 cannon on, which is what I'm aiming for this. It's going to look nice. So what I'm going to do now, and I mean now, actually now, but probably not very much of this on camera because I want to chill out. I'm tired from the week, but I am going to get this done. I'm going to make the platforms. Now the idea for the platforms is that this will be in that direction, and this bit will be in this direction, and then this bit will be at an angle. So I'll probably continue one up to the end or something. I might continue this one and have this at an angle and this one being cut off very slightly weirdly there. It's a bit of an odd shape, but they've thrown this together to fit into the geography. The only other thing to say that I'm considering, I'm not sure whether I'll do it now or not, but I might do, is that I might have a little stream coming down here and washing down into the river, and the stream will potentially go underneath, so that I have a little bit of a culvert here for the stream. I'm not sure, it might not make any sense. So I'm going to get stuck in with that. I'm going to use, so the idea is I'm going to use coffee stirrers and matchsticks. That's my plan. So I'll bring you along for the first little bit when I start, and then probably sit down and put a YouTube video on, ironically, and get it done, but without the camera running, and I'll bring you back for the next step. But let me just get myself ready and start it off for you, so I'll see you in a second. Alright, so I'm going to try and do a little bit of this on camera, as I say, so I'll show you what I've done. So first of all, I have separated out the 3 areas that I'm going to assemble separately. And I've also got out the matchsticks that I have that don't have any sulphur on, because they're a little bit easier to use, and this will demonstrate what my plan is. So my plan is to have the matchsticks going across and then the wooden planks going over the top. I'm going to do it properly, which I often forget to do. I'm actually going to do it properly, so I'm going to do it with offsets like this. So it's going to need me to cut quite a lot of individual shapes. Certainly, if you can see here that this is 90 degrees away from the front, but this angle isn't quite 90 degrees. I've made it a bit difficult for myself, which is not an unusual thing to happen. So what I'm going to do is first of all cut a few sections which are going to be used to start off, and just use super glue to glue those in place. So this one is going to go here and is going to be glued across these 2, and then I'll get another one which will go here, and another one which will go here, and then the 4 sections will all be glued together. One thing I could do, and I might actually end up doing, is not trying to cut things too neatly and tidily at this stage, because, well, if I get it wrong, then I'm really annoyed and it's just going to be fiddly. But what I have is my Dremel, or I've got another lower powered, a new lower powered little hand tool, and so once this is all glued together, I could maybe take this, trace the shape on it and cut it out, and that might be a better way to do it. So thinking about it, I think I might do that. So I'll just stick a load of these in place in the way that I want them to be, so with the ends overlapping, as you can see. So one like that, and then one here, cutting the ends off obviously so they're not rounded, so something like that. And then when it's all dry and done, I can come along with the cutter and carefully trim off the ends, and that might be the neater way of doing it. So yeah, so let's get that done. I'll run the camera for a bit and then stop when I want to stop and go and do something else while I'm working on this. I have shown you how I go about trimming these. I do have a chop it. I find it a little bit overkill now. It's a little easy for me to work with like this. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to add. I am going to leave these 2 long, so they will underlap the key and give it a little bit of support. But these 2 I'm going to need to measure and cut down as well. So I may as well do that now as well. So we will just do that visually. Cut there, And again, no need for the chop it. When you've got a sharp knife with a good blade, you can just do it like that. Much quicker and easier, and also less noisy. There we are, done. Splinters a bit, but it doesn't matter because we're doing a quick thrown together palisade. So I'll pop some music on and you can watch a little bit of me trying to do this. Try and being the operative word. Feels like ages since I've been down in this painting room, and that's because it is ages. It's early Saturday morning, I set the alarm, and I've got a little bit of time to paint before Rosie wakes up. So knowing her, she'll wake up really soon. And I'm going to try and get some paint on the puppeteer, which is my target for today, as much as I can of that. You can see that I'm really struggling with a painting handle for this model, and what I've done is I've gone for a clippy Citadel holder, and I'm hoping that that's going to work. Now we'll find out, because obviously I've only just assembled it. So yeah, I am going to run the camera a bit, and I will interject if there's things to say. And yeah, I'm just going to crack on with as much of this as I can in the time that I have available, which is, I don't know how long, because just as I came in just now, she started to stir, so it might not be for very long. So let's see what I can get done. So a new project. I'm going to be doing a challenge with Travis from the Tabletop CP channel, which you can see linked at the side of this video. In December, the plan is to do some winter terrain. We will be doing an announcement video, I'm sure, at some point, but this is an early warning. And this arrived, I'd forgotten I'd ordered it, which happens here because things do take quite a bit of time to arrive sometimes. And it struck me suddenly that it was such a suitable thing to try and get built, because this Stuka Zufus is an Eastern Front building, Eastern Front vehicle, and so you're going to be seeing this in the snow. So I can potentially make this and paint this up as a winter vehicle, and then when I do the work and do the things with Travis, then this will be really suitable to kind of dress it up and goes alongside. And this will also act as a bit of a motivation for both that project and for this project. They will motivate each other. So I thought I'd quickly open this, have a look at what the kit looks like and show you, and then I'm going to get started and I will bring you along for this build. I will do this one on video. So let's see what's in the box. We have a book of instructions. Always nervy when there's a book of instructions. Do we have separate tank tracks? We don't have separate tank tracks as such. The tank tracks are in sections, which is okay, I suppose. I have made tanks. You've seen the last attempt. I failed. I basically decided to make it blow up because I gave up. So I have done these sorts of builds before, and I find them to be great fun until I run out of steam, and then they just sit and don't get finished. So let's have a quick look at the instructions and see how painful this may end up being. So the first 2 pages here are showing what's in the packet. So first of all, you're going to be building the body. And it looks like there's a few options based on which version we're going to do, so we'll have a look and see what version we're going to do. And then you're going to be putting in a gunner and different guns from the looks of it in different positions based on which version you're doing. If we're going to do an open version, there's an option, or if you're going to do it closed, I'll decide on that, I'm not totally sure. And then this is the big thing which everyone's scared of when they're doing armour, including me, which is the tracks. Please refer to the link and length tracks sprue numbering. So it looks like there's the longer sections, and then you get the small bits to go around the edge, and it does look like that's not going to be a movable. You're not trying to make this so that they can move, so that's good. Then once you've done the tracks and they're on, we're going to put on the side skirts and what have you, and then we'll be making up the actual mortar bombs, and then those go onto this little rack and then get glued on the top, and then there's a couple of different men. So what are the actual options? Okay, so a little bit of looking, and I've identified it. This is option A, which is the Eastern Front 1943. This is option B, which is the Eastern Front 1942. And this is option C from the 24th Panzer Division. And this is option C, which is Eastern Front Full 1942. So I think I'm probably going to be ending up doing this, which is Panzer Schwarzgrau, which I've got, flat wood, which I've got, Panzer Olive Grün, which I've got, and flat rubber. So that's good. I can do the painting quite easily because I've got all those. So we're going to be doing option C, I think, throughout this build. So yeah, that looks like quite a nice bit of kit. I'm actually quite excited. I bought 2 of these as well. So obviously I'm going to build one on the camera. I probably won't do the other one on camera, and I might do a different period. I might do the option A for the other one, so do it in the more interesting camouflage, but I think this one will go ahead and do it with the Schwarzgrau dark grey, German dark grey, and that'll look nice. So I'm going to get myself stuck into this over the next few days. I'm not sure whether I'm going to start it now. Don't have a huge amount of time, but yeah, we'll bring you along for that, and hopefully you'll enjoy this as a slightly different type of build. I have a lot of these type of kits, and these will be appearing more and more on the channel as I reduce or try to rebalance from just doing terrain to doing other kits as well. So yeah, there we are. The Italeri even Stuka Zufus in 1/72 scale, and it is item number 7080 if you're interested. 7080. So yeah, cool. I've made a bit of progress today on this, so I thought I'd bring you along. I'm ahead of this stage on one of them, and I just thought I'd show you how I'm going about doing this. So first of all, what I've done is I've used super glue and big heavy weights to glue the strips in place, and you can see that I've done it deliberately a little bit kind of haphazard and using maybe some slightly damaged bits of the coffee stirrer. So the next thing I'm going to do is turn it over like this and paint a film of PVA all the way over the bottom. And what this will do is it will mean that the whole thing becomes one solid lump underneath, and it will be much more hard wearing, particularly when I come to the next step after this one, which is going to be cutting the shapes, which I'm a little nervous of. Once I've cut the shapes for the first two, this here is the side platform. The one that's already past this stage and dried is the front platform, as I'm calling them. Then once I've got these two cut and secured together, then I will work out and join and do the triangle. I think I'm going to do it that way. That's my idea at the moment anyway. So yeah, so we're just going to paint PVA all over the back just to add as an additional binder, and I'll let that two go off. The other one is not quite even yet gone off because it does take a long time when you paint PVA on relatively thickly. It takes a little bit of time for it to completely dry, but it will be a really good seal, particularly around the edges of the matchsticks, and it will mean that it's far less likely to get broken when I bring my Dremel near it, which is, yeah, the next step. So there we are, that's what I'm doing. So thought I'd show you. I'll get this all painted on and I'll show you how I'm going to make sure that it doesn't warp. Okay, so that's now covered entirely in PVA, and as simple as it is, what I'm going to do is put a weight on top and then put even more weight on top, because the idea is this is going to stop it from warping. So I will leave that overnight and I will bring you back tomorrow when I take it apart, because I'll almost certainly have to make use of my knife just to kind of separate it, because the PVA will probably have adhered slightly to the metal, but it's easy to remove. So yeah, just thought I'd show you that. I will let that go off. We're moving along rapidly now. I know there doesn't seem like much progress, but yeah, I'm really pleased so far. Okay, so let's get a start on this kit. So we're going to start at the top. I'm doing version B or C, which seems to be basically the same in the first few steps. But it doesn't matter anyway, because certainly initially the only differences are around when you're painting it. So I'm going to be able to make the sub-assemblies, and I will be making the sub-assemblies, and then I'll paint it once I've made the sub-assemblies. So first of all, we're going to take our sprues out, and I don't think I need any of this sprue, so I'll put that to one side and keep it out of the way. So let's have a look and see what we've got. So we've got part 39, we've got parts 56 and 57. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that that is going to be part 39 there, and indeed it is. So we will split that off. And I've not got a huge amount of time this evening, but I thought I'd try and maybe get some of the first panel done. If not all of the first panel, then at least some of it. So we'll put that to one side. What we'll do in a second is we'll use we'll clean up that, and I'll show you how I go about doing that as well. So we're then going to be looking for parts 56 and 57, which are some seats. So I'm thinking that parts 56 and 57 are here. There they are, yes. So we'll snip those off as well. And that's going to be the first thing that we're going to glue in. So let's just focus on that very, very first little step first. First, lots of firsts. Okay. So this is going to be our benches in the back for where the dudes sit, and it's got little seats. You can see if I hold that up, it's got little kind of like uprights, and then the bench goes on top, and the bench glues on to these uprights, to these little holes. So that's pretty simple. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tidy up the little sprue marks. So we've got a little sprue mark there. And just with a sharp knife, you don't need to do anything very special. If you're a little bit nervous, it can sometimes be easier if you do a scraping motion, but it can take a little longer. So we'll just take those little sprue marks off. There we are, done. Didn't do that very well, but did it well enough. Then I don't think there are any sprue marks on these. Oh, there is a little one on that one, so let's just tidy that up. There's a lot of conversation on the groups that I follow around scale model, which is what this is really, about how much effort we put into things that no one will ever see, and the joy there is of painting and putting detailing in, which only you will ever know is there. And they're not wrong. So I'm going to be using Tamiya Extra Thin. That's the That's the glue that I use. I don't have my little don't knock it over thing up with me, so let's hope I don't knock it over. And what we're going to do, so there's two ways you can use Tamiya extra thin. The way that you should use it and the way that I'm using it now, because it does evaporate. So what you should do is place your piece in and then apply the glue afterwards so it gets pulled in by capillary action. But I am way too clumsy for that. So I do it like this, little dip, little dot, 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 dot. Just try and move fast enough that you get it in place before any evaporation or too much evaporation occurs. And the good thing with this is it's actually a weld, so it doesn't just stick, it actually combines the plastics together. But you can see how fat my fingers are and why it's amazing that I actually have a hobby like this. So what I'm actually going to do is wait for that to go off, turn it around and not reach over. So I might need a little bit more. This is why doing it my way is not the best idea, because yeah, but if you're clumsy like I am, it just proves that you can do this even if you're clumsy. So let me just get that in place. We'll get the first one in and then drop it in, get it in the dots, and there we are. The first thing is made. The first part of the instructions, the destructions are followed. Destructions. There we are. Make sure they're upright. Real hobbyists will be watching this and they will be shouting at me, "What are you doing like that for?" But hey, I'm doing it like that because that's how I know how to do it. So, the next step I'm going to do, I'm going to put that to one side. I'm not going to do very much more because it's getting late and I'm tired and I don't want to make mistakes. But the next part I'm going to do is just this bottom bit here. So I'm going to take part 37 and glue parts 58 and 59 on. So first of all, we'll take out this part, which is part 57, 37 even. And we'll just snip it off with the side cutters. And then very carefully tidy up those damaged areas. Not that they'll be visible, but it's always nice to know that you've done a good job. Okay, so that's that. So now we're going to look for part 59, because that's going to go, or 58, that's going to go on this side. So we'll get part 58 first. And there is part 58. And this one will have quite a bit of cleanup. So we're going to want to take that smooth there. And this is where having a good sharp knife makes all the difference. There we are. And then we'll just clean off that end as well. Okay, so that glues in, along there. That's quite obvious. Look, there's a flap space there, so that glues in along there. So what we'll do is we'll paint our Tamiya extra thin. Again, doing it wrong, but hey, you can see just how quickly it does evaporate, especially when spread like that. And then we'll drop that on quickly before it all evaporates. Should be using capillary action for that, but I'm too clumsy for that. So that's glued in place now. Nicely, cool, good stuff. Neat. And so now we're going to get the other one out. Now what I might actually do here is use my X-Acto blades to get a better cut, a sharper cut, that leaves less cleanup. There we are. Let's put that to one side. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing. So we will be applying it here. It evaporated very fast there. So now I might get to show you how you should use it, which is like this. And there we are. So I think that's as far as I'm going to go now, because I have to edit the vlog for tomorrow. But that's been really good to get that started. I'm very keen to get this built as quick as I can because I don't want it to hang around as my last tank did, and then it got turned into an explosion marker. So there we are. So we've done this step and we've done that step. So we haven't quite finished panel 1, but that's far enough for now, I think. So there we are. About 10 minutes that took me in fully elapsed time. Well, there you are. What a good week that was. I really did have a lot of fun, and I made a lot of progress. A lot of projects are on the go at the moment. What you don't see is the Battle Games Middle-earth, which is ongoing, making Barden's Tomb. And yeah, I'm very lucky to have the time and be able to spend so much time and enjoy myself with my hobby, which is brilliant, and also to share it with you, of course. I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you have, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe as well, obviously, and thank you, as I said at the beginning, if you have already. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you, so drop into the comments and let me know your thoughts. And I will now close with the tea toast, which I haven't done for a while because I always forget to bring my cup of tea over, or I've always just finished it while I'm editing, because I record this outro just as I've finished editing the actual video, and so I've just finished my cup of tea as well. So cheers, and please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.